Welcome to the SJ Child Show, where a little bit of knowledge can turn fear into understanding. Enjoy the show. Wonderful. Thanks for joining the SJ Child Show today. I'm really excited to dive deep into this conversation, get some really great parenting tips and advice, because today we have on someone really who is putting just all of their efforts into how parents can have more positive interactions with their kids. So today we are welcoming Debbie Godfrey. Hopefully that's the pronunciation right and everything.
Yes, it is.
Thank
Just
you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so nice to have you on today. Thanks for being here. Let's just kind of get started at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you here.
Yeah, well, I have 3 kids and they're obviously grown now. How old are they? 37, 33, and 32. Yeah.
I wouldn't have put you into that kind of a grown child now. Come on.
and I have 5 grandkids. So I've been doing this a little over 30 years. So it's been a fun journey. My kids were 6, 2, and 1 when I had my first parenting class, and it absolutely changed my life. I went from screaming and yelling at my kids all day long to actually enjoying them and feeling like I was doing a better job and having fun most of the time, which was amazing. And after about a year of using the things that I had learned, I thought it would be really nice to teach this to other parents. And so I got trained and certified, and I started my business in July of 1994.
Wow, the year I graduated high school.
That's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, I guess that was my birthday month as well. But yeah, it's a wonderful year.
Very cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then, over the years, I suppose you've nurtured it, it's grown, you've learned more, added to it, is just as everything, right? Undulates, and we have to move and grow with things. So that's really exciting. So tell us a little bit about those beginning years and kind of how it, started and how you grassroots it and all of the things.
Yeah, well, I read all the guerrilla marketing books, and that's kind of was my process. I don't know if anybody even knows those anymore. They were back when. Back then, there was no internet.
Right.
We did not. I remember when I got I actually got my website, positiveparenting.com in 1995. And so that's how I can have positiveparenting.com, because I had it very early on. And I remember thinking, I got my first email address. Someday everybody's going to have their email address on their business card. Like, it was this huge, far out in the future thing.
Isn't it interesting how, time changes, and now here we are putting everything into technology. Yeah, you can trust it all right until you can't. And then
and I think that was a interesting part of my journey, was transitioning, because I used to write a newsletter, and I would mail 3,000 copies of a physical newsletter. My kids would help me label them, and I would what I call pounding the pavement. I would go and go door to door, to schools, businesses, or offices. And I just don't really do that anymore. And I don't know if I should. But, it's just like, things have definitely changed, because now you make appointments. You don't just show up, and you don't call, you text to call, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just so different.
Yeah.
And then, and just going with, like, I originally knew how to write in HTML, just basic HTML. I could do that. And then things just grew and exploded and went way beyond me, way too fast. So
yeah, you got me there. No, it's amazing. And now the kids younger and younger and younger understanding how to do this stuff. And wow, it's just the opportunities that are here for the kids of today are so vastly incredible, and opportunities just everywhere, right? Dangers and opportunities.
I never my son, when he was 3 years old, taught me how to use a mouse, that goes with a computer. Like, I didn't know how to do that, and he knew before I did.
It is so fascinating. And their minds are just so, I guess, evolved to these days work so much more quickly, and well, we just have so much more information available to them. They access it more quickly than
Right.
probably, well, if they're, introduced to it, I suppose. But yeah, it's fascinating how, and I have three kids as well. Not, I have 23-year-old, 13 and 11-year-olds. So
So
I,
you're still in the thick of it.
yeah, still, oh yeah, still in the thick of it. Plus that 23-year-old, I learned a lot. So kind of like you said, well, I mean, it took me 13 years before I learned with her, but after 18 years now, I've learned so much. And I know exactly those times when you just wish you knew more about how to communicate better with a child whose communication hasn't been practiced, I guess you could say, over time, and I think that it's such a hard learning process to she's a stepdaughter, so then to come mixing families, and you can't ever control what's happening in the other household, right? You can only control what's in yours. And yeah, it made for a lot of learning experiences, but now I have these two that I can kind of use all the practice, right? Bless their hearts, bless her heart for being the practice child. No, it's so powerful though to grow and to take each child individually, which I'm sure you'll tell us you have to do because they are not close to the same in any way.
No, they're not.
And they're not like you either. And I think a lot of parents struggle with that. I think that there's this idea that we're going to create these people, they're going to be like us, they're going to have our same experiences, so we have to try to recreate our experiences for them. But when in doubt, when you really look at it, they are going their totally different pathways on their own that we've never experienced. We're going down those for our first times too with them as a parent. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you've brought up several different points. And I think step parenting is its whole animal in and of itself, that the things, the way, and every step family, every blended family needs to operate differently based on the individuals in it. I mean, I think there are some rules to follow that can help make it easier, and definitely making agreements about how much and what the step parent is involved in, so that the two adults are really in agreement about that and doesn't allow the stepchild to come in between them,
Yeah.
is important. And in some families that may be nothing, like the step parent is just hands off. And in some families that step parent will be like another parent in the home, and then everything in between. It's a continuum, and there's no right way. Your family needs to operate in the way that makes the most sense for your family. And that's not always easy to figure out, but I think every family does their best to figure it out. And the other thing that you were speaking to kids being different, of course.
Yeah.
Any of us who have more than one kid, it's like, why? I've heard them all the same.
Yeah.
Why is it so different? And it's funny to me. And I make my own observations about my kids. My daughter that's most like me, I love that we fought the most growing, all my parenting class, like examples and stories, and they're all about her. We butted heads, and it was because we were so similar. And I feel like because I had these positive parenting tools, because I was able to navigate that relationship and those power struggles and the hard times so well compared to my mom. Like my mom and I's relationship was absolutely destroyed, through teenage years and young adult years, just, devastated because the communication wasn't there, the understanding, the empathy, the feeling, none of it was there. And, and I love my mom, she's still here, whatever, but it's like, we never had that deep, close connection, and we are very similar. And I see that now, and I understand that now, but that doesn't bring the emotion to the relationship, the way that learning how to communicate well does. And so with my middle daughter that I had a lot of these intense experiences with to share, we became super close as, even as through those things. And then as she became an adult, and it just, tickles me to no end the way she shares herself, the way that we're saying, I'm just like my mama. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never would have said that. I love this. I love
Yes.
this kid.
Yes.
And I mean, it just makes my heart so happy, like that I have a kid who likes being like me, because I would have never admitted that at that age. Even if I did like something about my mom, I would,
Yeah. Oh.
and stuff. And so that's fun. And then the one who's different from me, who I actually live in an apartment above their house. So she has my first three grandkids. And I moved here right before the pandemic. She was having a terrible third pregnancy, and I came to take care of their family. And then pandemic happened, and I ended up staying with them. And then I was going to leave, and then they're like, "No, you're not leaving." So they bought a house with a granny apartment upstairs for me. So I'm here.
Yeah.
So I'm helping them a lot. And she and I are absolutely different, so different. And I know for me, raising her, it was really important that I find mentors for her that were like her. She was an artist. I'm like math brain. And so just that one distinction in our personalities and our makeup, I could see even at a young age, like she needed more out of this world than I could provide. So she had her paternal grandmother that was very artsy fartsy. And so I made sure they had a lot of time together. I found a really good art teacher for her, made sure to nurture that. One of her friends had a mom. And so I didn't get threatened. And I think what you were speaking to a few minutes ago expecting these kids to be like versions of ourselves or in our own, like, no, what you want to do is observe your kids, see who they are, who they're becoming, and how you can serve their needs. And for me, it was really letting go of that ego and that need to be everything to everybody. It's like, no, I'm not much to anybody, really. I just do me, and I'll give you what I got. It's not a whole lot. So I need to fill in the gaps of that. And so I feel like I did a really good job of that with my kids, of providing other experiences and other mentors in their world to supplement who I was and what I could provide.
Yeah. So important too, because mentors, I've been talking a lot about, isn't that funny when we repeat these conversations throughout other conversations with people, because it's just like an energy being pulled towards us. But it's so important for your kids to have mentors, for you to have a mentor. And I was just speaking with someone the other day, my world consists of a lot of autism advocacy. My children are autistic, I'm autistic, so there's a lot of autism talk that goes around here. And one thing we always say is having that 3-tiered process, but this works for anyone in any part of any kind of parenting, is to have someone ahead of you so that you can ask, what the heck? Puberty is crazy. What am I doing? Have someone at your same level with kids the same age as yours, so that you can maybe say, well, my kid's interested in this, like bounce ideas off each other or whatnot. What does that middle school look like? Such and such. And then ones that are in the earlier process that you can be a mentor to, that you can really help to be they're in this process, in this journey, because there's so much to be said. Like 30 years of parenting. Right. That's a lot of successful parenting advice, tips, education, and so on. We can't even fit it into this whole entire hour, I'm sure. But how have you now then harnessed kind of all of that and taken it and put it into this positive parenting mission?
Well, I think I like how you described that with the 3 tiers. I haven't heard it spoken in that way before. That's really very cool. Because I do see that when I'm teaching parents parenting, one of the things that they have to do is learn and digest the information. So I provide a class with, we do experiential exercises and role plays and all these things to kind of see all the different aspects of parenting from the child's perspective and from our own perspective growing up and whatever. And so we learn that. And then parents have to go home and practice on their kids, right? So whatever we learn, like go home and practice doing this thing with your kids. And then the last thing that they do, and I encourage this, is tell one of your friends what you're doing. Like, when you're getting in conversations with mom friends, teach them. If somebody's struggling with something, go, oh, I learned this thing in this class. Let's try this. Because teaching somebody else what you've learned is that last piece of integrating what you've learned. And so you won't forget it once you've taught another. And so I find that that's what I love about the group process and why I love teaching classes versus, I mean, I do individual coaching because people want it. Honestly, I prefer the group interaction. And I think people get enough and more out of that, that as much as doing one-on-one coaching, because you do have that exactly what you were saying. There's parents who are ahead of you in whatever way, whether that's the age of their children or just their abilities. There's parents at your same level, and then there's parents who aren't maybe aren't there yet. And that, I think, is one of the hugest things parents get. They'll come to a class and they think they're the worst parent in the world, and then they'll get there and they're like, oh, maybe I'm not so bad.
Yeah.
By hearing other people's horror stories, it's like, okay, it's like, this puts it in perspective. We're all struggling. We all have challenges, and, you know, our own challenges are ours. They're tough for us, but everybody has challenges, and it's not ever easy. And if somebody says it is, I don't think they're telling the truth, or they're not going deep enough. I mean, I think this relationship between parent and child is deep. And you either allow that to be or you don't. And if you don't, you will not have a close relationship with these humans when they're adults. They will drift off, and you know, you won't be in their world. You have to really see the potential of what this can be in terms of, what does this being have to bring you, and what do you have to bring to this being? And that purposefulness, I find, is the thing that gets us through the hard times. I mean, the parents who say, how did I end up with this kid? I don't know. It's like, this child is perfect for you. There's a reason that this child is in your life. There's a reason that you're in this child's life. And that's what you have to discover. And when you discover that, both of you heal, both of you become close and connected, and your worlds will just evolve in the most purposeful way possible.
I love that. Yeah. And I see that in my own family and my own children, how, you know, our son is partially verbal, so he doesn't get to be in the same categories as, you know, everyone in the same conversation levels and everything. But my daughter, who was like emotionally intelligent as a 30-year-old at 5 years old, you know, and I'm like, she's sewing. Are you like a grandma? Like, where did this come from? No, but you know, now in 5th grade, 11 years old, she's so much. I'm always like, can I Google vitamins to turn my child into her intellectual age, please? Because she's so far ahead of everyone, yet she has to go through these exact times that she's in with these same peers that are not at the same emotional, like, you know. And I think that I'm now seeing what ways I need to help her. She's so different from me. So very different. She's the different child. And it's hard to first know how to help a child who's different, because you've never gone through those experiences, as where I'm super outgoing and friendly. She's much more reserved and quiet and shy and purposeful. Not that I'm not, but I'm, you know, purposefully outwardly, and she's inwardly. So it's vastly different when we're out in public together, and, you know, I'm helloing, and she's like, oh my gosh, please don't notice me. Stop talking to people, mom. No, no, she's okay with it sometimes, but it's me learning how to not be so outward so that it embarrasses her, you know, kind of softening myself. And then her also seeing, well, I could be a little bit more friendly when people say things to me and not be so harsh or withdrawn to them. But it's kind of funny, like you said, it's like, where did this come from? Like, how do I do this? What? And so sometimes I'm pointing at my husband going, yeah, you need to be the a full-time parent over here, Mr. No, he really is. But, you know, just she's so much more like him. Right. Sometimes I'm going to him going, what do I do? Like, what would you do in this situation? How do I deal with this?
And that actually comes up in coaching a lot of times, where I'll have that dynamic where something is super triggering to one parent because it's not in their genre. And so, you know, and then I'll almost always find out just what you're saying. The other parent has that thing. And it's like, oh, you just delegate this all to them. You get out of this, because they're the ones who have the experience to give this child. And maybe you need to be there as a mediator, because you're not going to get as triggered with the actual issues, you know, and yeah, it's just, to me, it's fascinating. And it's the journey of that discovery and figuring out how to navigate it in the best way possible so that we don't damage each other in the
Yeah,
process. And it's
absolutely.
cute. You're talking about that. That sounds just like me and my daughter, Brianna, and she's 37. She's the one who lives downstairs. And I'm like Miss Optimist, like, because optimism and
Me too.
pessimism is on the temperament scale, right? So
Yeah.
everybody's somewhere on this continuum. So I'm way over here, she's way down here. And before I knew about this was early in the parenting journey. I was like, cheer up. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then I find out like, oh, this is a temperament trait. Like she is on this scale. She's not wrong or bad. And in fact, me being over here is super unrealistic. Like I'm out in the world just doing stuff I shouldn't be doing or what, you know what I mean? Like I'm more irresponsible, I think, because of that optimism, which even triggers her pessimism more. And
Yes.
so, we've got this thing that's always been in our relationship and she's having it hugely right now. And with some things going on in her world. And I'm just seeing like, wow, this dynamic hasn't changed. I'm still Miss Cheerfulness and she's still Miss Downer. And how do I support her? And I tread carefully and I try to be as loving as I can. And then she just gets racked with guilt with how, miserable she is.
Oh.
And then I feel worse for her. And
Yes.
it is just this beautiful dance of how can we support each other with the differences that are triggering us so greatly. And we still love each other.
Yeah.
And we're still meant to be together. And I'm here helping with her kids and it's all perfect, even in the imperfections and the
Yeah.
struggles and the heartache. We have a 2.5, I say we, my grandchild,
Sure.
who is he's not talking a lot and just had a little inkling with the school counselors. He may be on the spectrum. And
Okay.
it just shocked me because I've been around this kid since he's a baby. I'm a parenting person, but I've never had on the spectrum in my personal life.
Yeah.
And I have we have great communication. It's just nonverbal. And I never realized that could be a thing. And he's the cutest thing ever. I adore him. We have a blast and he might be on the spectrum. And it's like, okay, I get to learn how to live in this world and navigate whatever new things I'm going to learn. And we'll see. And who knows, it's early on, but luckily it's early on.
Yeah.
And
You can
that
get the early intervention, all of the
yeah,
things. Yes. Then now you get to come to me. Now I
that's
get
right.
to woohoo! We get to trade each other for our services, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I just found out in last May that I was on the spectrum. It's been a
Wow.
whole, I'm, 45 and I'm like, what? And it was
Wow.
only in finding out my daughter when she turned 8 got a diagnosis and the same thing. It was like, wait a second. How did this sneaky little thing sneak right under my nose? And because my son was diagnosed at 16 months old, very early on, much more severe, and he is profoundly gifted as well as autistic. So he's 13 going on college professor, and it's a whole new world over here we live in. I used to joke that it's kind of like a house with round corners. There's nothing like everything's different. Nothing has a I don't know. It's just different. It's like a whole new construction. And
adaptive to everything.
yeah, yeah. And which really, set me on a really great path in parenting early on when I had to learn, like you said, how to communicate with this nonverbal child, how to really just switch my idea of what I thought parenting was to what parenting is now. And
And
it
is with
was
this child.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. And there was this little, and you could share this if you wanted, if you ever anyone ever wants any little tips or anything, but there was a time, like you had said, when I was, my stepdaughter just yelling, and that was like the communication style. It
Right.
sucks, but that was what I came with, and that's what I had learned, and that's what I took with me. And when I realized that I couldn't do that with this little baby, like it was just couldn't
Couldn't do
happen.
it.
No,
Yeah, no.
just absolutely undeniably could not happen. And it was like, well, how do I stop? Like, how do I stop these triggers? And what do I do? And so I came up with this idea that every time I wanted to yell, I would have to yell, I want to yell right now. And it started sounding so ridiculous after a bit that it really started triggering that, like giving myself the physical I guess, out that I needed was to get that, excuse me, get that energy out. But
Yeah.
then over time, it stopped happening because I wouldn't get triggered because I wouldn't, I just coached myself out of it. Right. And it
Yeah.
was a great way to practice not doing it. And it worked so well. And I mean, it's been, you know, 10 or more years now. And I mean, my daughter wouldn't even know who I was if she heard me yelling like I used to. I can't even, my younger daughter, you know, she's never, that's never ever anything that she's ever heard. Or so it's interesting that we can change those things. But I love that intention. You have to put that intention is you have to put aside that ego, like you said.
Right.
So
Yeah. And that's not in every parent's repertoire unless they really, they either have to get into such dire circumstances, you know, like a hitting bottom essentially with the child, that, you know, their child's behavior does something that it's like they really have to take a look. You know, it's not an easy thing. I mean, you know, the personality is in most adults is pretty solidified, and
yeah.
it's not that changeable unless something comes in and makes them change it. So I love my class because I keep it light, but the exercises are deep. You know, we do fun stuff, but it will absolutely trigger a parent back to wherever they were and with whatever they had. And each parent will interpret and hear and observe what they need,
Yeah.
and it'll give them whatever they need, and I can rely on that. So even though, yes, things have evolved in the last 30 years, parenting essentially is the same. We love our kids and we want to give them what's best for them, and the structure and the ideas that I teach aren't really, they haven't changed that much. I mean, the issues have changed. Like screen time
Yeah.
dominates my world in an awful way. Everything is about power struggles over screen time. Ugh,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
Yeah.
just blah,
We don't have
you
those.
know.
I'm happy to say that. We don't have those in our house. We
No,
have
and my
we have
daughter,
a
no,
little
my,
bit more free
yeah,
forming of things
yeah,
around here. So
yeah.
it might
No,
look a little
I
crazy.
taught at a couple Waldorf schools, and it was heaven because they pretty much, I mean, some families still will have screens, but they're you know, ostracized. Hide it if they do, you know, so it's not a big deal. And it was like, oh, this is just heaven to have, you know, kids that are outdoors in their school and
Yeah.
not on screens all the time, because, you know, it just, there's still power struggles, there's still challenges, but they're around different issues. It's not
Yeah.
always the same thing.
Mm.
So
Yeah. And it's hard because now we have the social media, you know, that we have to protect our kids, the internet and all of these other sources of things they're getting their information from, especially like if they're school age kids.
right.
And that's a tricky one. What are maybe like 3 tips that you would give parents to start to build a communication relationship with their child?
Well, I mean, one would be to really start to look at feelings, and you need to do this for yourself first. Not every parent is equipped with this. So start observing as you're going through your day. What are you feeling at any given moment? Like when you're walking around, like, what am I feeling right now? You know, oh, that car just cut me off. I'm feeling really angry. You know? Or, oh, that person just smiled at me. That makes me feel really happy. And just start observing your own feelings first. And then start observing your children. So when you're looking at your child, you know, reacting or just playing or whatever they're doing, ask yourself, what is my child feeling right now? Like what are they feeling right now? And maybe make a commentary to that. Like, it looks like you're feeling really happy playing with your toys right there. Or, you know, it looks like you're really frustrated trying to figure that puzzle out, or whatever it is. If they're on a video game, it looks like you're really having fun attacking that, whatever you're attacking, you know, and just going into their world, but bringing feeling words in it, and bringing that to the relationship, because I think that emotional intelligence was missed in previous generations in a big way. And so we're all learning and doing that better these days. And I think just to continue to develop and evolve emotional language with our children is important. That's how they're going to learn it. You know,
Yeah.
talking, like
I love
they're
that.
they're going to feel feelings from the time they're born. Their feelings are there, right? Emotions, feelings, they're all there. And our job is to help them transition that from embodiment. So if a young child is angry, they're not feeling anger. They become anger embodied. Like they're just raging and this and that. If they're sad, they're crying. So our job is to help them start to bring that emotion and being able to talk about it and observe it and then move through it. So learning how to say, I feel angry versus I am anger, and, being that anger. So that's how we help them with that, is bringing the language, bringing the observations. That's one thing. Another thing I would say is learning how to navigate the power struggles. I mean, that is huge. Power struggles start big time at age 2 or 3. And most of us flub it up completely. Get in that power struggle phase, and we just go toe to toe with this 2-year-old or this 3-year-old, absolutely at their level, slugging it out. And they learn very early on, this is super fun. This is how to get their goat. And it's just off and running. And, some families, it's just like this all through the child rearing years, and it's miserable and painful. If you can learn how to navigate those with a 3-year-old whose development is about the power struggle, because it's like, who am I separate from you? And where is my power in this world? And where are the limits on my power in this world? Like, that is super important. And I know we have 3 minutes left.
Oh, I think we're 8. We're good.
8. Okay. I want to make sure we don't go over.
Oh, bless your heart.
Okay. So learning how to navigate those power struggles in a way that helps them feel powerful, but within proper limits and boundaries on that power. And that's age appropriate. Like that at every age and stage, they should be gaining more power, and the limits should be loosening around that power so that they can grow and develop and become, confident people. And then the last thing that I think is the most important thing would be to provide what we call genuine encounter moments. And a genuine encounter moment is direct, focused, 100% attention that we place on our child. So it's not distracted or busy. When a child says, Mom, come look at this thing, we're like, yeah, I'll see it in a minute. That's, that's not going to cut it. Like, it's like, oh, well, what's important to me, she doesn't care about. And there's all kinds of misinterpreted ideas and thoughts that will happen in their brain when we don't acknowledge their excitement or their joy or see things through their eyes. Yeah. And so to make sure that once every day, and now I'm saying once every day, y'all, I'm not saying every 100 times a day, which your kids will come to you 100 times a day. Mom, dad. No, you don't have to do 100 gems a day. One time a day, make it a point to stop what you're doing and see the world 100% through your child's eyes. So when that child comes to you and says, look at this, or I want to show you this, how exciting, more, give me more. I love this. And get down with them and just observe and see and feel and play. Nothing will prevent misbehavior more than doing genuine encounter moments like that. Again, not all day, every day, y'all. I don't want you to say, I can't do that. No, one time a day, you make sure to do that. If you want to do it more, fine, but just once a day will absolutely satisfy their need to feel seen and heard and understood.
So important too. I mean, that's how we all hope that we can feel. And so when we get to our 30s and 40s, we're not going back to fix all the try to find who I am's and my values and all of the things, right? So yeah, let's set these kids up for some different types of encounters. One thing I did that I think some people find a little bit controversial, but we got to do our own things some of these
days. That's right.
Is when my daughter was really, really young. I mean, I saw my stepdaughter struggle. I struggled with self-worth, value, all of those things due to narcissistic relationships and such. But, with her, I was like, not letting this happen. Like, her dad and I are in this fantastic, loving relationship. She has this beautiful marriage that she can see. And now she needs to be her, like, who is she going to be? And so when she was really little, grandma stage, when grandma was over and stuff, and that, oh, who do you love the most? Do you love grandma the most or whatever, and I would be like, you say, I love myself the most. All the time. You always say that. You always come first. You love yourself the most. You are number one. Aww. And now today, and some people at the beginning were like, oh, she's going to be so selfish. No, she is selfishly in love with herself. And I love it.
Yeah.
I see the power she has in her confidence, and she might be shy and she might be the observer, but she's never going to struggle with am I valuable enough? Am I, and not in that she won't have that maybe in future relationships where she might question herself, but she'll always know that from the very get go, she's number one. She puts herself first. And yeah, I love that. I love that I can see
I
this.
love that. And I don't think that's controversial at all. And she will pull in, she won't pull in the relationships that damage her because it won't be part of her shtick.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right.
no, goodbye.
Yeah, and I see that happening already. I see her,
Right, right.
and we really are open with her about, hey, you bring in the people that you are most likely to vibe with. And so those people that might have been friends but aren't now, they're not available to be where you're at in your level. And they have to grow to get to that point. And that's hard for kids to know, but still important. Okay, before we go,
Okay.
let's find out. And I'd love to have you back on the show. Please, I'd love to invite you to come back on and get more into depth in some things. What is positiveparenting.com is the website. Let's just talk for the last couple minutes about your podcast, because I did go over and check that out. So yeah, tell everybody where they could find that.
Yeah, so the podcast is the Positive Parenting Pep Talks podcast, and it's on all the places. I record it in Anchor, and then it goes out to all the things. So however you listen, I'm sure you can. And the first season was about 200 and something episodes, and they were 3 to 5 minute topics. So I just talked every day for a year, basically, for 3 to 5 minutes on different topics. So you can scroll through and figure out what you want. I have a lot of series. So I go through why kids misbehave and all the things about power struggles and revenge. There's a whole series of that. There's a series of the temperament traits, what are the 9 temperament traits and how to navigate those. And then everything you can imagine, bedtime, bath time, homework, whatever. And then I did that for a while, and then I took a break for a couple of months, and then I just started back. And what I've been doing is uploading question and answer sessions that I've had with parents.
Love that.
And so that's what's been going up lately. And I'm open to doing those new ones too. If somebody wants to have a Q&A that's on the internet. Yeah. In a podcast, you get free coaching and all.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I think that's
it's really fun. I mean, I think parents learn from each other best, and hearing other people's stories, I think, is the really grounding way to learn. And so that's what I'm doing with it now.
Oh, I love that. Well, I wish you the best of luck in that moving forward, and your grandchildren, and enjoying all of them, and how lucky for you to be there and get to enjoy them. So that's really fantastic, and just really proud of you as a mom and a grandma. Good job. Well, thank you so much for being here today. And I hope we can stay in touch so that we can
definitely
keep the connection. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.